The story takes place during the British colonial era in Australia. One scorching afternoon, a brothel is suddenly riddled with bullets as police storm the building.
Come on, you fucker!
After the chaos settles, a wanted man finally surrenders and is handcuffed to a table. The men captured that day are Charlie Burns and his younger brother, Mickey Burns. Both of them are known to be the younger brothers of a notorious outlaw leader named Arthur Burns. Charlie insists that he has nothing to do with Arthur anymore and claims they have long gone their separate ways. But a police officer named Captain Stanley explains that Arthur has committed a crime that cannot be forgiven. Arthur robbed and slaughtered the Hopkins family, killing Eliza Hopkins, her husband, their first child, and even the unborn baby she was carrying. Despite the brutality of the crime, Stanley admits that he and his men have never been able to capture Arthur. So Stanley offers Charlie a deal. Charlie will be given 9 days until Christmas Day to track down and kill his older brother. If he refuses or if he fails, then Mickey will be hanged in his place. In other words, Charlie must kill his own brother to save the life of his younger one. Charlie warns Stanley that if anything happens to Mickey, he will come back and kill him.
Listen to me now, Charlie. Don't speak. Hush, Maggie, you'll be fine. I wish to present you with a proposition.
With that threat hanging in the air, Charlie is released to begin the hunt for Arthur. Meanwhile, Mickey is taken away by the police and thrown into jail. As he is transported through town, angry residents throw stones and curse at him. The poor boy is forced to suffer the consequences of crimes he never committed. Under the burning sun and drifting dust of the Australian outback, Charlie eventually comes across the ruins of the Hopkins family home, the place where Arthur carried out the massacre. The house is completely destroyed, and nearby lie the graves of Eliza Hopkins and her family. Among the wreckage, Charlie discovers one room that was never touched by the flames. It is the nursery that had been prepared for Eliza's unborn child, a life that never had the chance to enter the world. And this is where it all begins. This is the proposition.
Love. Love is the key. Love and family.
As evening falls, a woman named Martha arrives at the police station looking for her husband, Stanley, who has not returned home. Martha was a close friend of Eliza Hopkins, the woman who was murdered. When she notices Mickey in the cell, she is shocked to see such a young boy imprisoned and asks why the police would lock up a child. Sergeant Lawrence nearly reveals that Mickey is the younger brother of Arthur Burns, the man responsible for killing her friend. But Stanley quickly hides that truth from his wife. He does not want Martha to be consumed by hatred or dragged deeper into the violent situation. After Martha leaves, Stanley scolds the sergeant for almost exposing the secret. He does not want the public to learn that Charlie was intentionally released. That same night, Charlie continues his journey through the harsh landscape, searching for Arthur's hiding place. Back at home, Stanley waits anxiously for any news from Charlie, but none arrives. During his journey, Charlie stops at a quiet bar to rest. The place is nearly empty except for a bounty hunter named Mr. Lamb. The two men strike up a conversation, though Charlie never gives his real name. During their talk, it becomes clear that Mr. Lamb is also hunting Arthur Burns, hoping to claim the reward offered by the authorities. The moment Charlie hears this, he suddenly smashes a beer bottle over the man's head, knocking him unconscious. Meanwhile, a government official named Fletcher arrives at the police station. As he travels through town, the local residents demand that Mickey be punished immediately. Even though the boy has done nothing wrong, people insult him and treat him like filth simply because he is Arthur Burns' brother. Charlie continues his journey through the harsh wilderness, determined to find the hiding place of Arthur and his gang. At the same time, the police manage to capture several local rebels. Captain Stanley questions them, hoping to learn where Arthur is hiding. They are assisted by a local man named Jacko, who has sided with the British authorities. During the interrogation, the sergeant begins acting openly racist toward the prisoners, which immediately angers Stanley. Wanting to keep the situation under control, Stanley orders the sergeant to leave. Deep down, Stanley wants to carry out justice without humiliating or dehumanizing anyone. The captured rebels eventually reveal that Arthur is hiding inside a cave somewhere in the hills. They even admit that they themselves are too afraid to go near the place, believing anyone who approaches will surely be killed. That alone shows just how terrifying Arthur Burns has become, a man so dangerous that no one dares to confront him. Meanwhile, the sergeant begins gossiping about his own captain with the townspeople. He reveals that Charlie did not escape custody at all. Instead, he claims Charlie was deliberately released by Captain Stanley. Naturally, the rumor spreads quickly through the settlement as word passes from one person to another. Out in the wilderness, Charlie takes a moment to rest and eats some roasted kangaroo meat without any seasoning. Days pass as he continues his journey. Even after 3 days of travel, he still has not reached his brother's hideout. Unbeknownst to him, Arthur himself is already watching from a hilltop nearby. The next morning, Charlie wakes up on the dusty ground as the harsh sunlight burns across the desert. But when he stands up, he finds his horse lying dead in a pool of blood. Suddenly, a spear flies through the air and pierces Charlie's body. A group of local tribesmen had mistaken him for a police officer and attacked him. Just as things look hopeless, a gunshot rings out and one of the attackers is killed instantly. The man who fired the shot turns out to be Arthur himself, along with members of his gang. They arrive just in time to save Charlie's life. Arthur and his men quickly treat Charlie's wound, and by sheer luck, the spear missed his heart by only a few centimeters. The next day, back in town, Martha goes out to buy meat at the market, but is mocked by the townspeople. News about her husband releasing Charlie has already spread across the entire settlement, and now she's being judged by everyone around her. Meanwhile, Charlie regains consciousness after his injury. As the sun begins to set over the desert, he finally meets Arthur on top of a hill. Standing there beside his brother, Charlie is torn by a painful dilemma. The man he was supposed to kill has just saved his life. Arthur asks where Mickey is, but Charlie lies and says that Mickey has gone traveling with his girlfriend. Arthur warmly embraces his younger brother, a gesture that only deepens Charlie's inner conflict and makes the decision he must face even harder. Back in town, Mickey continues to suffer inside the prison as the police constantly insult and humiliate him. At the same time, Martha finally learns the truth, that Mickey is the younger brother of Arthur Burns, the man who murdered her best friend. Soon after, the colonial official Fletcher arrives at the station and orders Captain Stanley to punish Mickey with a public whipping. Fletcher already knows about the agreement Stanley made with Charlie and the fact that Charlie was allowed to leave. Stanley tries to explain that the real target should always have been Arthur, not Charlie, and certainly not Mickey, the youngest of the brothers. Punishing Mickey, he argues, would only bring disaster. Stanley pleads for more time, insisting they should wait until Christmas for Charlie to complete his mission so that more bloodshed can be avoided. But Fletcher refuses to listen and insists that Mickey will be whipped the very next morning. Unbeknownst to them, Martha overhears the entire conversation while standing quietly behind a wall. Later at the station, Stanley sits alone, overwhelmed by the chaos unfolding around him. He takes medicine in an attempt to calm his troubled mind. Deep down, he still believes Charlie will keep his promise before Christmas arrives. If Mickey dies from the punishment, Stanley knows it will only ignite a deadly revenge from both Arthur and Charlie. A revenge that could destroy everyone involved, including Martha, the wife he loves so dearly. The next morning, the entire town gathers to witness the punishment. People crowd around the prison, eager to see Mickey whipped. Captain Stanley tries to disperse the crowd and even locks the doors, hoping to prevent the spectacle. But not long after, Fletcher arrives and demands that the punishment proceed. Among the crowd stands Martha, who pressures her own husband to carry out the sentence. Driven by anger and grief over the death of her friend Eliza, she believes the boy deserves punishment. What she does not realize is that this decision will eventually place her own life in danger. With no power left to resist, Stanley has no choice but to obey the order. The unfortunate Mickey is dragged outside and publicly whipped in front of the townspeople. His screams echo across the settlement, leaving many shaken by the brutality of the moment. Far away in the wilderness, Charlie is still struggling with his decision to kill Arthur. He has no idea that Mickey is already being punished, days before Christmas, breaking the promise Stanley once made to him. At Arthur's camp, several members of the gang are present, including Jonah, Samuel, and Borak, a man from a local tribe. Back at the prison yard, Mickey eventually falls silent. One by one, the spectators begin leaving because they can no longer bear the sight of the boy's back, which has been torn apart by the lashes. Even Martha, who had demanded the punishment, nearly collapses from the horror of what she has witnessed. Before Mickey dies, Stanley finally stops the punishment. He hands the blood-soaked whip to Fletcher, refusing to continue. That act costs him his position, and Stanley is immediately stripped of his rank as captain. Not long after, rain begins to fall, even though it is not the season for it, almost as if the sky itself is washing away the blood spilled on the Australian soil. Stanley quickly calls for a doctor to treat Mickey, while the police officers begin to grow nervous. They know that sooner or later Charlie will hear what happened, and when he does, revenge will surely follow. By the afternoon, Dark clouds gather across the sky. Stanley understands that his time may be running out. He rushes home, locking every door and preparing his weapons. What he fears most is the coming storm of violence, a battle that many people, including his own wife, cannot fully understand. That same night, the sergeant and his men attack a group of local rebels. Dozens are slaughtered, and afterward, the soldiers celebrate their victory by drinking at a bar. From a distant hilltop, Arthur watches the scene unfold and senses that something is terribly wrong. Together with Burak, Arthur rides down to confront the sergeant and Jacko. The sergeant tries to claim that Charlie will eventually kill Arthur himself, but Arthur shows no interest in the warning. Instead, he brutally crushes the sergeant's head under his boot until the man is dead. Elsewhere, Charlie and Samuel remain at the cave when they are suddenly discovered by Mr. Lamb, the bounty hunter who has been tracking Arthur. Lamb realizes that Charlie is Arthur's brother and decides to take him hostage. But before the situation can unfold further, Arthur returns with Burak and shoots Mr. Lamb dead. For a brief moment, Charlie has the perfect opportunity to kill Arthur from behind. Yet once again, he cannot bring himself to murder his own brother. After dealing with Mr. Lamb, Charlie finally reveals the truth. He explains that the police plan to hang Mickey on Christmas Day, which is only one day away. At the same time, the doctor caring for Mickey reports that the boy is already dying, and there is nothing more that can be done to save him. Realizing the urgency, Charlie, Arthur, and the rest of the gang rush toward town in an attempt to rescue Mickey. Meanwhile, Stanley prepares himself for what he believes will be his final night. He tells his gardener to leave and never return, wishing him a final Merry Christmas before sending him away. By midday, the rain has stopped, and dust once again fills the air. Arthur's group disguises themselves in police uniforms. Burak pretends to be a captured rebel so they can approach the prison without raising suspicion. Once inside, the plan works. The guards are taken by surprise and quickly overpowered. Charlie and Burak rush to Mickey's cell and free him, though the boy is already barely alive. Charlie urges Arthur to leave with them and stop the killing before things grow worse, but Arthur refuses to walk away. Instead, he joins Samuel in slaughtering the remaining police officers with ruthless brutality. Not long after, Fletcher arrives at the prison and is horrified by what he finds. Several police officers lie dead, their bodies brutally mutilated and their heads missing. At the same time, Charlie finally discovers that Mickey has died. His eyes turn red with grief as he breaks down, blaming Stanley for failing to keep his promise to protect his younger brother. But deep down, Charlie also realizes something painful. He himself failed to keep his own promise as well. He was supposed to kill Arthur, yet he never found the strength to do it. Burak confronts him about it, accusing Charlie of being the reason all of this happened. According to him, none of this tragedy would have taken place if Charlie had simply stayed with them and followed through with the plan. As Christmas bells begin to ring across the town, Stanley sits down for dinner with Martha. Every door in the house has been locked and weapons have already been prepared. Stanley knows that something terrible is coming. Suddenly, a gunshot shatters the calm inside the house. Arthur and his gang have arrived. Stanley is quickly overpowered and beaten inside the room, while Samuel keeps watch over Martha, who is trembling with fear. While searching the house, Samuel finds a piece of jewelry that Stanley had planned to give to Martha, a gift meant for the woman he loved so dearly. Soon after, Martha is dragged into the room and forced to watch as her husband is tortured. Stanley is shot in the shoulder so that he will not die immediately. The cruelty is deliberate. Arthur wants Stanley to stay alive long enough to witness what Samuel intends to do to Martha. This level of brutality reveals the true nature of Arthur and his gang. It also explains why Charlie had long ago chosen to distance himself from them and tried to keep Mickey away from Arthur's influence. Moments later, Charlie finally arrives. His face is completely expressionless, but the weight of hatred and grief rests heavily on his shoulders. He reveals the devastating truth that Mickey is already dead. Without hesitation, Charlie raises his gun and shoots Samuel and Arthur. But by the time he pulls the trigger, it is already too late to undo everything that has happened. Charlie tells Arthur that the violence must end here. Wounded and staggering, Arthur slowly walks out of the room. Surprisingly, Charlie chooses not to kill Stanley. Even Martha, who once demanded that Mickey be punished, is spared and forgiven. As the evening sky turns orange, Charlie finally brings an end to the long chain of violence. To do so, he must take the life of Arthur, his own brother, the very man who started the tragedy in the first place. In the final moments of the story, Arthur sits quietly on the dusty ground, staring out at the fading sunset. Charlie walks over and sits beside him, and there, under the dying light of the evening sky, Arthur takes his final breath. So the moral of the story is sometimes waiting too long to do the right thing can cost the life of the person you were trying to save.